President Bola Tinubu says freedom of expression must be strengthened, not sabotaged. Nigeria's democracy, urging editors to wield their influence with fairness and national responsibility. He was speaking at the 21st All Nigeria Editors Conference. He promised to act on course for a stronger protection of press freedom. But media leaders warn that democracy itself is at risk as many newsrooms struggle to survive under rising costs. State House correspondent Adeswa Morawa reports.
It was the first of its kind. Over 400 editors inside the presidential villa, face to face with the country's leader. The theme was bold: democratic governance and national cohesion, the role of editors ahead of the 2027 elections. After months of economic pressure and newsroom closures, editors came not to beg, but to insist that journalism must survive if democracy is to endure.
A free, responsible, and vibrant press remains the lifeblood of any democracy. When the press thrives, democracy breathes. When the press is stifled, democracy suffocates.
The Guild laid out concrete demands, including corporate tax relief, repeal of laws that inhibit press, VAT exemptions on media inputs, tax credits to encourage advertising, low-interest loans, and a media development fund to speed digital transition. For them, it's not sympathy, but survival. Then came the keynote that flipped the conversation. Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma turned the challenge back on the journalists, saying editors themselves will shape whether 2027 becomes a test or a triumph for democracy.
You are not spectators in 2027. You are active participants. You are catalysts and facilitators. Whether you acknowledge it or not, the narratives you shape between now and the election will determine whether Nigerians approach 2027 with hope or cynicism, with trust or suspicion, with a sense of shared stake or through a tribal lens. I'm not asking you to become a propagandist for the state. I'm rather asking you to become custodians of information integrity, which sits well with electoral integrity.
He warns that sensational headlines have deepened public distrust and urges editors to rebuild credibility before voters return to the polls. Other speakers agree truth, not clicks, must drive coverage of Nigeria's democracy.
The government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has demonstrated its faith in you through his actions, not just his words. We invite you, therefore, to engage, to critique constructively, and to report with utmost responsibility that demands your participation at this moment of our history. The best editor is the one that knows what not to report.
President Tinubu acknowledges the media's historic role in defending democracy from colonial times to military rule, but urges the nation's editors to wield that freedom responsibly. He is warning against narratives that undermine national cohesion and confidence in the nation.
A democracy is sustained not only by elections and laws, but also by the integrity of the public conversation. This is where your role becomes central and indispensable as last man standing. I urge you, therefore, to continue upholding the highest standard of journalism. Report boldly, but do so truthfully. Criticize government policy, but do so with knowledge and fairness. Your aim must never be to tear down what we are building together, but to help build a better society.
Beyond the speeches, the conference went into technical sessions on electoral disputes, judicial integrity, and how the media can reinforce trust in Nigeria's democracy before 2027. This historic engagement is proof the government and media can disagree without hostility, even as the president promises to study the editor's proposals from VAT relief to reform of restrictive laws. Adesua Omoran, Arise News.
All right, well, thank you so much for that, Adesua. For more on the conference, we're joined in the studio by Garba Shehu, former president of the Nigerian Guild of Editors and former media advisor to the late President Muhammadu Buhari. Good morning, sir, and a warm welcome to Daybreak today.
I'm pleased to be in your midst. Thank you so much.
All right, well, let's get straight into it. I want to tap into your experience as a former president of the NGE, especially given what we experienced yesterday. It's rare to see the president come out to attend the summit and address the editors. However, some are a little bit critical of the message that was delivered, with thoughts that, addressing the media as an instrument of nation building. And given the optics and the speech from the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodinma, also saying, the media's role is to make sure there is hope in the next election and so forth. Whereas our job here is to report the facts and the true state of the nation. How does all of this get reconciled without turning all media houses in Nigeria into propagandists for the state?
Well, I think that it shouldn't surprise anyone that the government and the media are speaking in different tones. I think the very essence of the conference yesterday was that we would seek convergence, that let there be a dialogue, and let us see how there can be a common ground. As you have said yourself, the media is just a representative of the society, is a vehicle, for the public to convey to the government their thoughts, their own views, and what they want. And the government, of course, will be happier, not only in Nigeria, in all parts of the country, with a lapdog, an uncritical press. So therefore, and you can see, you mentioned the lecture by the governor, clearly the president and the minister of information walked on eggs without breaking them. I think they allowed the governor of Imo State to do the talking. And he clearly was stating that, everyone had got their acts together. The parliament is doing democracy, executive is pro-democracy, judiciary. You guys in the media, where do you stand? And he went on to suggest that we apparently seem to be indifferent to what's all going on, and we devote and dedicate more time to negatives rather than the positives, which he thinks would be building democracy. And the media, obviously, would say, no, we are just a mirror of the society.
Victories?
We are just reflecting the views of the public. And if you look at yourself in the mirror and you don't like the image you like of yourself, don't smash the mirror. Look at yourself, re-examine yourself, and see what changes you need to make for your own, from your own, side.
Now, the NGE raised alarm about the shrinking media freedoms from economic pressure. Now, in your perspective, how severe is this?
Oh, it's enormous. And I'm happy that you are making the distinction. Because media is shrinking, not because in this country we suffer the kind of things that we see in other countries. No, it's absent. However, the media economy is trash. Everyone is in trouble. And look, people are not paying salaries.
Right.
They can't even buy. One editor mentioned that a ton of newsprint today costs between 1 million to 1.2 million naira. When I left the newsroom about 2 decades ago, we were buying newsroom for 120,000. Where is the money going to come from? So it is in order that the media is crying out to the government. Look, it's not a scandal that media are subsidized by governments, because they support democracy. They are the institutional support of all the support that democracy institutionally. The mass media is the number one instrument for support. So therefore, nations of the world, including those in advanced countries, they fund the media. Why shouldn't it happen in Nigeria? Instead, the president of the Guild of Editors read a beautiful speech yesterday where they're even being overtaxed. VAT and all of that. So there has got to be a change in that direction.
And that's why the president had, accepted that proposal from the NGE for tax exemption and a couple of other things. So let's expand this conversation a little bit. The president talked about a lot of things yesterday. He made fantastic points, national cohesion, patriotism, sensationalism, and the need for fairness in reporting. So within the context of what Nigeria is currently going on, which is the designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern by the United States, can you share with me what your take is on that and your assessment of how the government and the media have handled this entire episode, which is still ongoing?
Well, you have talked so much into this thing, but let me see if I can get my bearing right.
First of all, your take on that designation and assessment of how we're handling it and the government is also handling it.
I think that we are handling it correctly because, look, everyone says Mr. Trump is a bully. And one theory suggests that to tackle a bully, you stand up to them to fight. We don't want to smash up the pieces. And we're already in trouble and we don't want to get into more trouble by inviting. Because if somebody like that with an ego that is as high as a windmill, if you challenge them, he will come to you and say, I can do it, and try to mess you up. We don't want to be bombed. We don't want attacks on our land. However, it is important that there is a message there. Look, we've been messing around with this insecurity thing for too long. Let's be honest with ourselves. And a number of people have made the point that, can we see what the Americans are saying as a wake-up call? I saw a clip from the governor of Zamfara some weeks ago. He was swearing on television that if there was will and determination, in a matter of weeks, this problem could be solved. Nobody is asking him how to. Nobody has brought him forward to say, tell us how to do this. If it is money that the security agents or whatever, has somebody asked how much? Have they been given what they want? So in a nutshell, what I'm saying is that we're in a mess. And we need help from whoever can do this. But the thing is that is the way forward to start throwing bombs on communities. We're already bombing communities wrongly on our own part. If foreigners who don't even know us begin to do this, get involved in these matters, it will become messier. That's my view.
Okay, okay, sir. I want to go back to yesterday's event. I'm just curious for your thoughts, especially as far as optics go. Should the president be setting the agenda for the media in a democracy? Just from an optical perspective, because I remember when Donald Trump came into office and he started, he has his own way of communicating, but he set an agenda for the media and kind of lined out his expectations of the media. It was hugely criticized. From an optics perspective, what we saw yesterday, is it positive and constructive for journalism and for the media fraternity, or is it something we should be worried about, especially given the strong theme around electoral credibility and electoral process on the road to 2027, references to the Anambra election, references to media that reported on vote buying, and almost a message that it seemed as though media was casting aspersions on the process by reporting on vote buying. These optics, do you think they are, in the spirit of nation building?
Well, I don't think anything less expected of the president. He's right, he's entitled to use the platform to pontificate, to the media and to the nation. However, and this is going back to the earlier, the preface to the question that you raised from the beginning of the program. What are we talking about? The media are being asked not to pay attention to the negatives, vote buying, violence in election, or crisis in political parties. And they're being asked to say, no, focus on the positives. We're trying to build democracy so that it endures. Okay. But the question then to ask is, what are the other actors doing? If there is vote buying and it shows up in the mirror, so who is to be blamed? Is it the mirror or the actors who are doing the vote buying? And can we go after them? Can we stop them from doing these things? I think that the Guild of Editors had a vision for this, bringing all of this conversation together. And the important thing is that, can we get everything right? If the entire room is organized and everything is in place, the media cannot invent crisis, cannot invent situations of instability in the country. No. Is everything 100% okay with the voting in the country, with the politicking, electioneering, and management of political parties? I think the parties, let them look at themselves and say, are we doing the right thing? So the politicians have a right to blame the media, but the media know that this is just a blame game.
Okay, so you've spoken about the politicians, and maybe now let's look at those 2027 elections that are upcoming. And can you just give a comment on what you think the responsibility of the media will be in this broader picture of national unity in conjunction with this 2027 upcoming elections?
The media role is defined, is historical, and is consistent. The media cannot do anything other than what they are used to doing, which is, look, we are all members of the society. It's not as if we are coming from the moon. We have families, we go to the same churches and mosques, the same markets with members of the public. So what we see in the media is no more than a reflection of what the dynamics of the society as it functions on a daily basis. So are we expecting higher level of conduct? I do hope so. Okay. But the problem we have is what is happening in the digital space. Okay. Can anybody manage? Can there be legislation?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, thank you so much, Mr. Garba Shehu. Unfortunately, we cannot take more. But before you go, I read that you were born in Dutse, Jigawa State, right? You were?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, okay. I have been to Jigawa State several times. In fact, when I was a cub reporter, one of my memorable times reporting and filing reports from Jigawa State. And so I remember it so much with, nostalgia. It used to be a very magical, innocent rural areas that I went through. So it's good to see you today, this morning on Daybreak. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
That's all the time we have here on Daybreak. It's goodbye from me, Constance Ikoku.
Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak today. I'm Vambai Mutiniri Epweyong. Until tomorrow, have a blessed day.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.